I believe also you were top 30 under 30 in Asia,
Yes,
is that
one of
right?
the youngest people to ever get that title. I was still a university student when I got the title.
Meet Naman Tekriwal. At just 23, is one of the youngest people to be awarded Asia's Forbes 30 under 30. From launching his first startup at the age of 13 to co-founding his current startup Breer while in university.
Breer basically stands for bread plus beer. So basically what it means is that we collect surplus bread which is supposed to go to waste in Hong Kong, like which bakeries are not able to sell at the end of the day. We collect it and then we upcycle it to make local premium craft beer.
Growing up in India, Naman noticed the stark cultural differences in how food is treated when he came to Hong Kong, and he felt inspired to take action.
In India, we're raised with the value to not waste our food. Like it's almost a sin if you waste food. But when I came to Hong Kong, I'm like, what is happening here? Like, why are people wasting so much food? It's just part of the lifestyle that people really don't care. I just felt personally attached to that problem and we wanted to do something about it.
Originally co-founding it in 2020, they are now in over 300 stores and restaurants in Hong Kong and have raised over $500,000. And I had the opportunity to meet up with him in Hong Kong to hear his story and welcome him as an 18 stranger to have coffee with.
Okay, so we're out in Hong Kong with stranger number 18 now. Who are we here with?
Well, thank you for your invitation. I am Naman, co-founder and chief operating officer of Breer.
Breer. Okay, so we'll get into Breer in a little bit. I want to know, firstly, Naman, what brings you all the way to Hong Kong?
So, born and raised originally in India, and I moved to Hong Kong 5 years ago to pursue university at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology.
Wow, okay, so you graduated from that university. What made you decide to stay?
The fact that I started a company while I was in my first year of university, actually the first month of university. But I think beyond the company, I fell in love with the city. The city is very efficient. The city has literally everything to offer. It has beaches, it has mountains, it has good food, it has good restaurants. So I fell in love with the city, the efficiency of the city, and obviously the fact that I'm running a company as well.
Okay, and I want to know, how has Hong Kong allowed you to pursue this entrepreneurship route? As somebody who's never been to Hong Kong, who doesn't know much about Hong Kong, is there a lot of opportunity here to pursue something like what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I think I would definitely say that, for me, Hong Kong truly represents a land of opportunities. Like, when I was taking the decision to study abroad and the few countries I was looking at, I was really excited with what is coming up in Hong Kong and the nearby areas, like the initiative of the Greater Bay Area by the Chinese government and how it's linking like different major Chinese cities with Hong Kong is a really promising opportunity because, when in Hong Kong, you can get access to like Chinese capital, Chinese innovation, Chinese manufacturing. So that is really, really cool. So I think that was a really interesting opportunity and I was like, I'm only 18 once, let's take the risk, let's come to an unexplored, uncharted territory. And to my pleasant surprise, Hong Kong has been extremely cultivating as an environment for entrepreneurship. The government is really supportive of entrepreneurship. There are many competitions, many grants. So if you are passionate enough in Hong Kong, you are getting all the right opportunities to build a big company out of Hong Kong.
And what made you, though, take that big leap of faith to start something in your first semester of university? And coming from India, it's a big cultural difference. I don't think you speak Cantonese.
No, I mean, when I came to Hong Kong, I was very enthused by the opportunity that, hey, I'm going to learn Mandarin, I'm going to learn Cantonese, but man, it's difficult. The language is very difficult. But I think I'm a firm believer of the fact that when people come to my country, India, I would love to see they making the effort to learn like, it's like a namaste, which, really makes you feel warm that the other person made an effort to learn something about your culture. So similarly here, I've tried to pick up some slangs which can at least smoothen the conversation between me and someone who is a local, like, Gai Sai, which basically means thank you, right? That is something which really bridges the gap, could be a nice conversation closer between me and a local person. So I really value that. But no, I mean, I come from India and, born and raised there. So really rooted in the Indian culture. And that was really the starting point as to why we were able to come up with what we are doing today at Breer as well. When I came to Hong Kong, it was because of my cultural background, which is of being an Indian. I could see and spot so many differences between what happens in India and how things happen in India versus how things happen in Hong Kong. And one starking difference was the fact that how we treat food. Like in India, we're raised with the value to not waste our food. Like it's almost a sin if you waste food. But when I came to Hong Kong, I'm like, what is happening here? Like, why are people wasting so much food? It's just part of the lifestyle that people really don't care. So that was really I just felt personally attached to that problem, and we wanted to do something about it. And again, kudos to Hong Kong and the fact that there are so many enterprising people here that in my first month of university, I met my co-founder Anushka, who was equally passionate about this problem, and we decided to do something about it, and that is how we started Breer.
Wow, is your co-founder also from India?
So she was born in India, but she moved to Hong Kong when she was 2 months old. So it's like she is very much a local. So she can speak Cantonese, she can speak Mandarin. So she is Indian origin, but she is a local here.
Wow, so that's pretty interesting. That's probably good for, doing business here in case, you need to sort of, do something that requires you to speak Mandarin or Cantonese, and just to have that, part of your team is probably pretty good.
No, and that helps, yes, English is a preferred language in business, but it's always helpful if you're speaking to a big corporate and that you can have a Cantonese speaker, because the level of comfort which a local person has in Cantonese, that will never be the same level of comfort in English. So it is an added benefit, I would definitely say.
Especially if you're pitching in front of people here, like they embrace it, they welcome people speaking the language, right?
For sure, 100%, yes.
Nice. And so tell us more about Breer. I think you were telling me before we started this that you just had your 4-year anniversary. Is that right?
We completed 4 years this Sunday. So we literally are a homegrown, university-grown startup. We started out of my dorm room at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. So our dorm room was our laboratory, our dorm room was our meeting room, our dorm room was our warehouse. It was literally everything 4 years ago. And then obviously since then we've come a long way. But in a nutshell, what we do at Breer basically stands for bread plus beer. So basically what it means is that we collect surplus bread, which is supposed to go to waste in Hong Kong, like which bakeries are not able to sell at the end of the day. We collect it and then we upcycle it to make local premium craft beer. So basically we collect bread, we ferment the bread, and then we make beer out of that.
Wow, what an idea. How many other beer companies in Hong Kong or the world, is this a common thing that other beers have done?
No, so we're actually only the 4th company in the world which does this commercially. So there are 2 companies in the UK, 1 in the US, 1 in Singapore, and we're basically the 5th company which is doing this. But everyone has different agendas to it. It's out of the 2 companies in the UK, there is a company which is started by retired folks, and whatever profit they generate, they donate it to charity. So it's not really like a commercial endeavor. It is more like just the fact that they wanted to kill their time, but they wanted to do it for a good cause. So they're doing that. But it is actually, interestingly, how we came up with the idea is the fact that when we became acquainted to the bread waste problem in Hong Kong, it's the most funny story. So I was 18, my co-founder was 19, and we were ending our midterm examinations. It was September 2019, right? So that's when midterm examinations happened, and it ended and we were we're young, let's go party, so we were literally at a club in Lang Kwai Fong, which is the party district in Hong Kong. And I did not used to drink alcohol back then. So I saw this bartender at this club, and he was drinking something which seemed like beer, but it did not look like, it did not look like beer. So I just happened to, out of curiosity, ask the question, what are you drinking? And this person told me that he's drinking this drink called kvass, which is KVASS. So this used to be the preferred form of alcohol for Egyptian rulers back in the day. Wow. And then this recipe migrated to Russia, and then it migrated to China. So then it became a popular recipe in China actually, and that is why people in Hong Kong make it at their home and things like that. But kvass is basically alcohol made by fermenting bread. So the concept has been around for a long time. We're just a modern take on a very, very, very historic concept.
Okay, so for people not really familiar with the process of making beer, how could you explain the difference between your beer and your traditional beer?
The only difference, actually there is no difference in taste. right? So the beer, the end product is exactly the same. But chemistry 101 for all the viewers and listeners is that any sugar source being eaten by yeast will form alcohol, right? So, and it needs to be simple sugars, because it's like, so what, how beer is traditionally made is, we add barley, which is grain, which is simple sugar and starch. The yeast will eat the grain and sugar, like alcohol, will be formed. But in our case, we don't use grain, we instead use a product from grain, which is bread. So the grain already processed into something is bread. So we instead of adding grain, we just add bread, and the entire process otherwise remains the same.
So you're skipping a process, or you're just substituting the grain for bread?
We're substituting, we're replacing. And obviously there are some tweaks which we do to the recipe, which I can't share with the public, but then there are some tweaks which we do to the recipe, but like most of it stays exactly the same.
Okay, I had a sip. That's actually how we met. It was through a Christmas dinner party here, and
Yeah.
you had your beer, and it was really good. And if you told me it was the same kind of beer as the other ones, I would have believed you.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, we have done so many blind tastings in the history of this company, and the main objective of these blind tastings is that no one should be able to say that this is bread beer, because it is beer which is made from bread, right? It's like, it's a sustainable alternative, but we don't want people to sacrifice on taste. The taste should be exactly the same, if not better, should be exactly the same, so they're not like over drinking a product because it's sustainable, but the taste is not good. We want it to be like that, and that's our tagline. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned, but our tagline is, does good, tastes better.
Yeah. That's good, because I think certain people could sacrifice on the ones that are very much into sustainability, but for the most part, if you were to present that beer that has the better taste or similar taste and sustainability, they'll probably choose that over other competitors, right?
It's an F&B product. See, like the customers can be friendly to you once, but they will never buy it again. They will buy it once for sustainability, but if it doesn't taste good, they don't give a damn. It needs to be tasting good if it's an F&B product.
Because that's the bottom line,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, and then I want to know, how is it competing with other beer companies around here? Are there a lot of other local beers in Hong Kong?
There are a few, but the way we really try to differentiate ourselves is we try to really be a vocal for local company. So for example, there is this one famous bread in Hong Kong called the Bolo Bao, which basically means pineapple bun. And like everyone who comes to Hong Kong, it's like an experience. And interestingly, Bolo Bao, which basically translates to pineapple bun, doesn't have pineapple. It only looks like a pineapple.
You know what? I had a pineapple bun today.
Yeah,
the first time.
It doesn't have pineapple.
It didn't taste like pineapple.
Yeah. So it only looks like a pineapple. That's why it's called Bolo Bao.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. So why is it? It looks like a pineapple. It just looks like a regular bun to me.
Yeah, I know. It's the checkered texture of it, right? Which is similar to pineapple, the checkered texture, and that's why just people call it a pineapple bun. But it doesn't have any element of pineapple. But it's such a local, nostalgic snack. Like if you're a teenager going to school, you eat it. But if you're an adult going to work, you still eat it. It's like a snack which stays with you from a Hong Kong perspective. And we really wanted to be big on the Hong Kong culture, right? So the next beer which we made after our first, traditional beer was a Bolo Bao IPA. Because IPAs are beers, which Hong Kong prefers, but why not make it local? Why not make it more rooted to the Hong Kong culture? So that's why we made Bolo Bao IPA. And that's why now the flavors we launch, we really try to be, big on local flavors. Like we launched a non-alcoholic beer recently, and that was made using cocktail bun, which is Gai Mei Bao. It's a coconut bun which is really popular in Hong Kong. So we really try to differentiate ourselves on flavor, because yes, our story does differentiate us, but in the end we're on the shelf with like 10-15 other products. But you really need to differentiate yourself on packaging, you really need to differentiate yourself on taste. So if you look at our packaging as well, it's very unique. You saw it on the other day as well, right? Like we have a bread cut out in the middle, and we try to make like very bright colors so that the can shines on a shelf also. So yeah, we try to differentiate in many other ways, but it's a tough market, but we're also tough entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I'm sure. And if you wanted to implement this beer in other countries, because you're saying the difference between Hong Kong and like India, let's just say theoretically you were to go to India and try to launch
We
something
are.
like that, you are
Yeah, our launch is next month actually.
in India.
In India. So we are launching in Singapore and India next quarter, both markets. And exactly what you were trying to allude to, we're going to be localizing the recipes according to the different countries. So when we're going to Singapore, we're launching a pandan lager because, Singapore loves pandan. But when we're going to India, we're launching an Indian flavor, which is a gulab jamun beer, because India is famous for, their sweets and their desserts. And that's the most wasted resource because unlike Hong Kong, India doesn't have the tendency of wasting bread. We store our bread in our refrigerators for like 5-6 days and they eat it and they're okay with it. So culturally, they're not wasting that. But we're wasting something else. So we're going to use that to make the alcohol in India.
Okay, because I thought, to challenge what you were saying earlier with the Hong Kong-India differences, I thought India is known just to not waste in general.
Yeah.
So I thought, going to an Indian market just would be a lot more difficult because of less waste.
No, I mean, see, the sad part about the world is there's wastage everywhere, but it's about the resource you're wasting. And again, the sweet waste which I'm telling you about in India is more at the commercial level. It's more at the shops wasting this rather than the customers wasting it. So it's that different. But I mean, that's why maybe it's not bread, maybe it's something else. So interestingly, what we're doing in Hong Kong as well now, so our biggest partner in this journey is a company called Maxim's, which is one of the largest food and beverage groups in Hong Kong. So Maxim's also owns Starbucks in Hong Kong. So, we already make one beer with them, which is made from the bread which comes from Maxim's bakeries. But then they were like, hey, we also have Starbucks. Can we do something there? And I'm like, what do you want to do? And they said, hey, we have this wastage of coffee grounds, the powder which is left after making coffee. And then we were like, sure, let's make a coffee stout where we don't use artificial flavors, but we actually use coffee grounds from actual coffee waste. So we use bread and coffee grounds together to make a coffee stout for Maxim's. So we're not only limited to bread. Bread will be a component in every recipe, but then we want to use other flavors. We want to use coffee, we want to use tea leaves, we want to use, surplus fruit peels and whatnot. We want to use everything because we are, in the end, a company which believes that waste is not waste until you waste.
Oh, I see. I think milk tea would be a good flavor. I don't know if that would work for an alcoholic beverage, but they love their milk tea here.
We can try. I mean, we have done very bizarre flavors in the past. We've done a egg waffle beer. We've done an egg tart beer. We've done a curry fish ball flavor beer. So we've done very crazy flavors because me and my co-founder were 23 and 24. We are risk takers.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23.
And my co-founder is 24.
Oh,
right?
my.
So we're risk takers and we love to take risks because, what's there for us to lose? Nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So let's take risks and let's make a name for ourselves.
I want to know, one of the last questions I have for you, has there been any major step backs, challenges you faced throughout this 4-year journey?
I think two main challenges were the fact that, the beer industry in general is dominated by people who are a bit older, 30, 35 plus. So we were always treated as kids in the industry. And they were like, oh, these guys are not serious. They're here for a school project. They're not going to really make a stone for themselves. And we were like, we'll let our actions be louder than our words, let's prove them wrong in the market by sales rather than really being, show off about it. So for us, we were never really welcomed in the industry per se. And, now we were like, let's prove them wrong with action. So I think that was one of the biggest hurdles, our age, because we still have this perception that young people can't achieve things, which I really oppose, because age is just a number. And I think second has been the challenge of distribution in general, because even though you're a unique concept and you're a unique story where you're trying to do something different, in the end, how many people really care? How many people really see the difference between that this is sustainable and this is not sustainable? We're trying our best with marketing. We're trying our best with, social outreach. But then in the end, are you able to communicate that vision or not? Because in the end, you're sitting on the same retail shelf with 10 other beers.
Wow. Yeah, must be interesting to see the journey unfold in the future and the future of what's to come for Breer. And then one question from the last stranger in Shenzhen, China. He wanted to ask you, What is your opinion on mainland China, and how has it changed over the years with whether you visiting there or just what you hear in the news?
I think it's a crazy place in terms of innovation and how, they're able to scale things rapidly, because I see so many data points about how India and China were at the same level like 30 years ago, and what China has been able to achieve versus what India has been able to achieve. Like, yes, India has done great, but then China has done amazingly well. The innovation they have, the speed at which they've built their tech and manufacturing, it's insane. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for Chinese entrepreneurs, Chinese innovation, Chinese technology. And that's why being in Hong Kong and having that proximity to China is a beneficial factor for me, I would say.
Nice. And the last thing I want to know, what's one question that you could pass off to the next stranger?
So I'm a firm believer in, failing and learning. So for me, I say this to everyone, that for me, fail stands for first attempt in learning. Right? So the question which I would like to ask the next stranger is, if you could go back in time, what is one mistake you would rectify?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, we'll find out that question next. Thank you for coming here. I really appreciate it. 23 years old.
Yes.
I believe also you were top 30 under 30 in Asia.
Yes,
is that
one of
right?
the youngest people to ever get that title.
In 20, it was last year?
Last year. I was on the list in 2023, so one of the youngest. I was still a university student when I got the title.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. So big things coming from you, I'm sure, and from Breer. And yeah, it was great to have you along in this series.
Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.
And we'll see you in the next one.